Now you guys are probably used to us releasing content about relatively affordable cameras and lighting on our YouTube channel. Today is not going to be that type of content. We're gonna be talking about professional lighting gear. Now, this is not the most expensive lighting gear on the planet, but this gear by Felix was made with professionals in mind. So I'm going to talk about each one of these lights individually, and then I'm going to show you 3 different lighting setups that you can use with any of these lights. Let's start first with the smallest and most affordable light, the P360. Now, if I could only work with one of these 3 lights exclusively for the rest of my life, it would probably be the P360, and that's because this is so small and so convenient. Now, of course, that's a give and take. You're not going to get the same power out of this light that you do out of the other 2. It fits in any bag, even a backpack, and the power brick is also super convenient. When we get over to these other lights, you'll see just how cumbersome they can be because they're so powerful and the power packs have to be so big and heavy. Now, this light has shown up in a bunch of Fstoppers videos over the years, and the reason why I bought this from the very beginning is because the circumference of this light is the exact same size as a Pro Photo light. We shoot Pro Photo when it comes to strobe lighting. We already own tons of equipment like soft boxes and speed rings, beauty dishes, reflector dishes, and then of course these grids as well. It's so nice having one set of accessories that just works for everything. And so they just snap onto the outside of this light. We can use it with our strobes or with these hot lights. Now, over the years, Felix has released a few different versions of this light. The original P360, the EX version, the Pro version, the Pro Plus version, which is this one. This light is $1,000, which certainly is not cheap. What you're paying for though is the ability not only to color shift, but also tint shift as well. To create almost any color in the white balance spectrum. It's incredible that they fit it into such a small light like this. But if you don't want to spend $1,000, B&H is still selling the original P360 lights for just $350. If you already happen to own Pro Photo accessories, jump on those lights right away. They're not going to be available for much longer. And at $350, that is an absolutely amazing price. Now, what is this light used for? Well, you can do almost anything with it if you don't need a ton of light. You're probably not going to be able to use this as a bounce light into the ceiling. We're actually using one of the larger lights right now into this white ceiling to create soft light on me. This light would really struggle to do that because it is so small. But if you can get it close to a subject, you can definitely use it as a key light. We also love using these as accent lights. You'll see a lot of times on our background, we'll have little light bursts hitting the background or little circles of light hitting the background. It's almost exclusively done with a light just like this. And then if you want to add modifiers to this light, it really opens up the door to even more possibilities. Now, if you don't already own Pro Photo accessories, this light comes with 2 accessories of its own. It comes with a very small Fresnel lens that snaps onto the front of this with magnets. It also comes with a set of small barn doors. Now, we got this as an added accessory. This is an additional Fresnel lens that's zoomable. And this adapter adds so much power to this light. It really focuses the beam, and because you can zoom, you can get the light exactly where you want it. Using the Fresnel lenses with these lights and the Q8 that we're about to get to has really been kind of an exciting thing for me because you can get a totally different quality of light. It kind of looks like a movie set, TV set, or an old school movie where you have that hard light and you can really play with the edges. It looks a little bit different than a standard grid, and you're not going to be losing a ton of power output. Now, if you're looking for something with a little bit more power and versatility, look no further than the Felix Q8 Travel. Now, we did a full review of this light a few months ago when we were back in Charleston. This light is incredible because of its power output and because it has the Fresnel lens built in. And this thing is zoomable as well. So you can see we can completely control the size of the output of the light here. And when this is zoomed in, you can really replicate the sun with this really easily. If you can remember back when we did the Zolly video by the pool, this was the light we were using to try to add some light to us so that we could still get that background in a correct exposure. We didn't want the background to be blown out. If we tried to do that exact same shot with the P360, it literally would not have worked. So having a light like this that's a lot more powerful is awesome when you need it. Now, if you look at the back of this thing, you'll realize why it costs $3,000. We have all of the same controls that we have on the smaller P360, but we have a lot more as well. Obviously, we have the ability to dim the power, we have color shiftability, we have tint shiftability, and we also have all the DMX controls. So if you have a control board, you want to install these lights maybe up in the ceiling, you're not going to be able to get to them, but you want to control them remotely, that's what these lights are able to do. Now, unlike the P360, this light is gigantic and it needs its own set of speed rings and modifiers and everything. We've not yet used this with a softbox just because we haven't needed to. We've been using the Matrix 2, which we'll talk about in a second. But the speed ring slides right down into this. And of course, you can still zoom the light. If you want a little bit harder light in the center of your softbox, you could zoom in or zoom out all the way and fill that softbox up. Now, talking about the downsides of a light like this, the big one is going to be the size and weight. This thing is a real pain to move around, especially if you need to travel for a shoot with this. It's much more difficult to travel with than the P360. And a lot of people don't take into consideration the weight and the size of the power pack. If you look down here, we've actually clamped this with a super clamp to the light stand to kind of create a sandbag effect to keep the weight low on this, and it keeps this power pack up off the floor so we're not having to kick it or step on it or anything. It's not a huge pain in the butt once you connect it to a light stand and if you leave it in your studio, but if you have to fly with this and you have to find a bag that it will fit in, you have to deal with that 50 to 70 pound weight limit, that's where it's really going to be difficult. So in just a second, I'll show you guys how we use this light in our last video, but before we do that, let's move over to the Matrix 2. This is the Matrix 2 RGBW. This light is a punch light and it can be used for a range of different things. But the guys over at Felix were telling me that most people like using this for lighting up large areas of a set. For instance, if you were lighting up the background or you were lighting up a green screen and you want really wide, even light, this would be the light for you. Now, there's a few things that make this light so interesting. First of all, it has an array of LEDs inside that are much larger than either of the other two lights that we've tested. Of course, it has all of the same features in terms of dimmability, color shifting, tint shifting. It can do all of that as well. I do love the fact that this has a handle on top. That makes it really nice for moving it around, and it is a little bit easier to deal with than the Q8, I have to say. But one other feature of this light that is super interesting is that it has RGB color, so it can go well beyond the standard colors that you're gonna be dealing with when you're just talking about white balance. This light can create neon colors. If you're looking for blues and pinks and greens, colors that are way outside of the spectrum, if you're trying to really create a mood or a totally different vibe on a set, this is the light that you're going to want. Now, I know there's a lot of photographers watching this right now, and maybe you feel comfortable working with gels. Gels are great. I know a lot of photographers have created some incredible pictures with wacky colors. The nice thing about a light like this is it doesn't require those gels. You can create those wacky colors directly in the light and you can see what you're doing and you can set up the shot perfectly before you take the picture. A lot of times photographers working with gels are kind of guessing. You're just placing lights around, you're adding 1 or 2 gels and hoping that it creates a cool color. Whereas with this light, you can actually see those colors. And then if you're like us and you shoot photo and video, having one light that can do everything and you're not having to reach for a gel makes things so much easier. Not only can this light produce a range of wacky colors, it also has effects. So if you were filming a movie and you want to replicate candlelight, or you want to replicate a fire, or you want to replicate a cop car with the lights going at night, this light can do it. And you can go into the settings and fine tune how it works, how bright it is, how much blue or red there is in the effect. It's really amazing. Now on the front of this light, you'll notice these 4 posts, and this light can accept modifiers as well. Now one modifier that this light comes with is this fixed Fresnel lens. It snaps right onto the front here. And if you're looking for a little bit tighter of a beam, this is what you're going to want to use. Now you can also buy a speed ring for this light that snaps right in here, but one thing that I do want to mention is that because these speed rings are so much larger than your average speed rings for strobe lighting, the softboxes that we own by Profoto are not able to fit on these speed rings. I'll show you in just one second how we use this light with a softbox, but keep in mind you're probably not going to be able to use the softboxes you already own with this or the Q8, but you will with the P360. So I've quickly talked to you about all three of these lights. Let me show you how they work in the real world. Let's move around to 3 different sets and I'll show you how we use these lights almost every single day. All right, this is our first set and this is an incredibly simple lighting setup. We have a table here that we got locally here in Puerto Rico, and then our key light is a Matrix 2 light in a softbox. Go ahead and cut that off. As you can see, that's almost all we've got here. The softbox is gigantic, it's huge, it's right in front of my face, it's creating really soft light. And then you'll notice that we have a light on the background as well. So down here on a very small light stand, we have a P360. On front of the P360, I've got a ProPhoto grid. This one happens to be a 20-degree grid. This is going to help focus the light so that it's only going forward, it's not going to be spilling out the sides, and it creates a nice little hot spot on the background that I can easily move around and create some interest. Sometimes we'll get really close and create kind of a band that goes up the side. Other times we'll put it directly behind me and create a nice little circle behind me. But basically having this light on the floor keeps it out of the frame and we can angle it exactly where we want to on the background. So when it comes to these tabletop interview, unboxing type videos, I love having a large light source as close to me as possible. Creates that really soft light, but it's also not going to create really contrasty shadows. So whatever I'm talking about, you're easily going to be able to see. So obviously this set, super simple, couldn't get much easier. Let's move to something a little bit more complex. Welcome to our living room set. Now you've probably seen a few videos that we filmed in here, and we even filmed a video where we took you through all of the lighting and how we built this entire thing. If you'd like to watch that, it's gonna go into a lot more depth. But we have been experimenting with a few changes, and I think it looks better than what we had before. And as we were going through some of the other Felix boxes that they sent over to us, we found these zoomable Fresnel lenses for the P360s. And this has allowed us to bring the lights farther back away from us, zoom in, get much harder, punchier light, and we're able to play with shadows a little bit more. I think that when you compare some of our old footage to the footage that we have now, I think it looks a little bit better. Let me give you a quick rundown of all the lights we're using on this set. Obviously we have a P360 up here. This is usually my key light on the sofa down here. This P360 up here has another identical Fresnel lens that's firing right on Patrick's face over there. This is a Matrix 2 light, and we usually just have this bouncing up into the ceiling in this area, and we can dial in the amount of fill that we want out of this light. Usually I just want to open up those shadows a little bit, but I certainly don't want it to be so bright in here that you can't experience those shadows and the depth that you have when you have these hard lights hitting us. On the back of the scene here, we've got a P360 with the small included barn doors that's blocking the light from hitting Patrick, but allows the light to hit my shoulder. And then down here, we have a hidden P360, and we're using this light to accent this dresser here just so that it doesn't fall into shadow. So obviously this is one of the more complicated lighting setups, and the average Fstoppers viewer probably isn't going to have something this complex. Let's move to the simplest lighting setup we could ever do, a simple one light bounce setup. So this is the main living room of the house, and one of the first videos that we ever filmed in Puerto Rico was right here. Patrick sat on this chair, I sat on the sofa. This was one of the easiest lighting setups ever. We used the Q8 travel and we simply fired it into this white ceiling. And the reason why I love doing that with this light is because it has the Fresnel lens built in. So I can turn this on, take a look at what it does. Right now it's zoomed all the way out. It's kind of lighting up this entire ceiling if you want really soft light from above your subjects. But then with this zoom knob here, take a look at the beam on the ceiling. It gets smaller and smaller and smaller, and you can create like a point right on the ceiling and really pinpoint where you want that light to be coming from. So take a look at the couch over there. I'm gonna toggle this on and off and you can see what it's doing. It's really lighting up this entire scene. And surprisingly, that's all we needed. When I show up to a location and I see white ceilings like this, my first attempt is at bouncing the light. Now, sometimes that's not going to work if you have a really bright background and you're trying to get an even exposure. But for us, in this scene, we didn't mind if the background blew out, and I think this shot looked great. Now, each one of these lights is incredible on its own, but I have to say, I have really been enjoying using these lights together. We own a ton of different LED lights, and we found the color is slightly different on every single brand. So it's nice knowing that I can grab any one of the lights that we own by Felix and it's going to look the exact same no matter which type of light I do grab. Now, I know people in the comments love complaining about how expensive this lighting gear is. I warned you at the beginning that this was going to be expensive, so don't bother leaving any nasty comments. We know this is expensive professional gear, but if you're in the market for this stuff, I really can't recommend it enough. And if you're interested in buying multiple types of lights, they do sell package kits on B&H. Now, Felix sent us a few of these different kits, and I have to say it's so nice having a custom-made box where everything is perfectly cut out for each one of these lights. The foam inside is laser cut, and so it's very obvious where each of the lights and power packs go, and it fits perfectly in this box, and there's no wasted space. So that wraps up this review. Remember, if you don't have thousands of dollars for lighting, check out the original P360s. They are an incredible price right now. For more free content just like this, head over to fstoppers.com, and if you'd like to learn from the best photographers on the planet, head over to fstoppers.com/store to check out our full-length photography tutorials.